Jeff Darlington is here, fresh off the PGA Championship. I've told him this a million times, I think. I told him once when I had like 8 beers, but I'll tell him again. His career path, so he grew up in Florida. I grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
And then, this is important, when you were in college, Jeff Darlington, you started to cover the Florida Gators professionally, which is the coolest thing anybody's ever done. I was in high school when this happened. My parents worked at the paper. And so I heard about Jeff Darlington when were you 21?
Yeah. The best part about it was they hired me full time when I was still in school because I'd broken a few stories and they were like, let's just bring him on. And, but it was a pretty good salary for for a college kid. It's not a livable income for like an adult with a family, but when I got paid this money as a college kid, like a real salary, I remember going straight to the Infiniti dealership in Orlando and buying like a G35 that was it was like the G35 had just come out, and it was more than my salary, but I felt like I could afford it. So like whenever I hear about like a rookie in the NFL, like Pac-Man Jones or something, that like blowing their money, I will never ever be critical. Like I'm just not built that way. Like I went to the swamp and would like buy everybody drinks, every second.
Legendary bar in Gainesville, right across from the actual swamp.
That's right.
I'll tell you what's funny. So the reason I brought it up is because your path, which was a few years before me, gave me the confidence when I was in college to but to see that it was possible to get real professional reps when you were in college. And so I worked the desk for a year. And then, Jeff, you remember we met when I was covering the Dolphins. And then they told me not to go back to school at the Sun Sentinel and just take a year off and cover the 2007 Dolphins. I was a sophomore in college at that point. What's funny is I didn't know you were going to tell that Infiniti story. So my college was my parents took care of that. They prepaid the whole deal. So anything I was making, I didn't have to put towards college. Okay. So just like you, what I was making the Sun Sentinel was pure profit.
Right.
And I bought a Mercedes C320.
We're so dumb. When I turned my
What were we doing? What were we doing?
Living life.
You ever heard of mutual funds?
When I turned in my car, it was like on the worst lease in the world. Like I was so overpaying. And when I turned it in, I just remember being so broke at that point that I bought a Jeep Wrangler, 1997 Jeep Wrangler off my buddy for $5,500, which, by the way, I still have. And it is
I remember
still my
that.
primary vehicle.
But do you know what's funny is that when I moved to New York, I was beyond broke. Beyond broke. Like there were times when I was overdrafted on my debit card.
Oh yeah,
the whole deal.
Same deal, babe. But
and so now I'm looking back.
Mercedes.
Yeah, I'm like, thank God I had that thing, which I like sold for 5% of what I bought for it. 8 years later. What were we doing?
If I got drafted into the NFL, I remember Pac-Man Jones telling a story to a room full of rookies at the rookie symposium. He's like, man, I rented out the entire top floor of the MGM in Vegas for just my immediate family. That would have been me. Like I would have done that.
Dude, I've gotten so careful now. Like the other day, and I think we both make a little more than we made at the Florida newspapers in 2008. But like literally the other day, I need like a new fairway wood for golf, and I was like, I don't know, let's wait till I have more security in the fall. And I was like, it's like $150.
No, it's PTSD. What are you gonna do?
All right, let's get into things that aren't our salaries in 2008.
Right.
Let's start with the Chicago Bears here. So they made waves last week. Seth Wickersham made waves, our colleague Seth, who we love. His book is coming out in the fall and has an anecdote that the Bears and Caleb Williams were not simpatico at the very beginning. And what's interesting to me is that most Bears fans read all of this and say the quotes, quarterbacks die in Chicago, all that stuff. And they say, yeah, we know. Like, we know.
Yeah.
And the fact that this came out after Ben Johnson was hired, I think is really important. If they had somehow, for whatever reason, brought back Eberflus or brought back Shane Waldron, it's a totally different conversation. But I think Bears fans are like, yeah, he's right. And it almost, in a weird way, like ingratiates him with the Bears fan base. A, he understood the risks and the history. And B, that's over now. And he got through it. And he wanted to be a Bear. So I don't think it's a huge seismic thing. They signed Joe Thuney to an extension today. That's taken care of.
Right.
It seems to me, Jeff, and this happens all the time And one day, it's kind of happened with the Browns in the past, and it certainly happens in college, where everybody kind of mocks the idea of a team ever getting good, right? Oh, is Texas back? Yeah, Texas is back, and nobody makes those jokes anymore. The Lions were a joke for 60 years until they weren't, or 50 years until they weren't. It feels like, and I know this sounds crazy, 64 unblocked pressures last year, most in the NFL.
Yep.
For a rookie, like in the history of rookies, he was the most unblocked. He had the most unblocked pressures ever. But I know it sounds crazy, but I kind of feel like the Bears have it figured out, Jeff Darlington.
I would like to agree with you, and I think that would be a really romantic gesture on my part. I'm in show me mode with the Bears because if you go back to this very moment a year ago, we were saying the exact same things. Like it was you go look at every Bears fan. It was like, this is the year we finally got the quarterback. We're good to go now. So I mean, like I'm with you. And I think that they have done the right things. And I think they are setting up Caleb Williams for success. I just am in don't tell me about it mode. I'm in show me mode. Right. And I think I probably, I don't speak for Bears fans because Bears fans, as they should be, start every year 0-0, 0-0 with new hope. And that is the beauty of sports. I just personally at this point, like Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson seems like a terrific offensive coordinator. Can that translate to being a head coach? That is something that needs to be shown before we can necessarily believe it, even though I know every Bears fan is fully on board with believing it right now.
I think you have to if you're a Bears fan, because the alternative is far worse. And I've heard, I heard this phrase one time that I think about a lot. And I actually forget which coach they were talking about. It was somebody in the sport saying called a now or never coach. And it's like, if this doesn't work, it's just never going to work. If Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams in an improved offensive line don't work, then it is an impossibility that it's ever going to work. So I understand believing that.
I would say I agree with that, except for a lot of times it is the surprise. It's like when you least expect it, like the Lions with Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. Like nobody saw that coming. They didn't. Like Jared Goff was cast away. That was the end. That was the pasture. And look what happened. So I'm with you, but I do think it sometimes comes out of left field.
I will say you've spent time around Goff. I remember going to Lions camp and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell swearing up and down that Jared Goff was not a bridge quarterback, that they wanted him in the deal, so that they had a guy and they believed in him. And I remember going on a couple national shows and repeating that. And I got laughed at. I literally got laughed at.
Like it got to the point where you couldn't even say anything. I mean, the problem for me is like I have a clear track record of like, I try to stick to just reporting because it's just better. But the second I tell you I like somebody, everybody knows it's just because that person likes me. Like it's just it's just this principle I subscribe to, which is I like anybody who likes me. Right. So from Chad Henne to Rex Grossman, to John Beck.
John Beck, I saw John Beck at Cowboys camp like 4 years ago.
Well, man, he's doing well. He's
a quarterback coach,
passing quarterback coach. But anyway, I guess my point is that I would have told you that about Jared Goff too. It's just that I was basing it just on the fact that what a great guy.
What a great guy.
I'm a great guy kind of guy.
Yeah. Great guy. There was you worked in Miami with Dave Hyde. He had once said something really funny to me, which is that any player can get away with anything. As long as they say the reporter's name back to them.
100% true. I saw it recently. Who was it that went into the press conference and shook everybody's hands? Some rookie went
Shedeur
up to
Sanders.
Was it Shedeur?
It was us. It was us. It was Omaha.
Was it Shedeur Sanders walked in and shook everybody's hands?
We probably did that in Cleveland too because he did it out with us.
Yep. There you go. Find a clip where anybody says anything bad about him after that happens. It's 100% true.
It was some guy who had gotten like a DUI or something in Miami, and then he came in and was like, "Hey, Harvey, hey, Jeff, hey, Dave," and we were all like, "All right."
It is the greatest crisis management move of all time. Just say the name of all of us loser hacks, and we will love you forever. It's true.
It's 100%. I wish I could never because of my job. I wish that our producer saying Shiloh Sanders also did it with the Bucs.
Brilliant.
By the way,
Brilliant.
The Sanders family. Like you can do whatever in draft interviews, but we'll defend you if
By the
you
way,
come and
maybe
shake
a
our
little
hand.
lesson to Shador that hey, if you do that to everybody, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good. Have a standard. The standard is the standard. All right. That was a good media lesson. Real quick. So the league meetings are this week.
Yep.
The tush push. We'll see what happens there. But flag football, there's going to be a participation waiver, whatever you want to call it, one per team. It sounds like. I've got a couple theories on this. Everybody keeps going like, oh, let's do Kyler Murray and Jamar Chase and T Higgins or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, anybody. I don't know. Is it 8 per team, 7 per team, whatever it is?
Right now, I thought it was. Oh, you mean for the actual roster?
Oh, yeah, for the actual. Like, who's on the field?
Right.
How many guys are on the field? 7 or 8?
7,
doesn't matter.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. And I gotta tell you, the worst 7 Americans on an NFL roster who go there win every game 80-0.
No matter what.
100%. So everybody keeps talking about like, oh, we got to staff it with Kyler or something. No, we don't. We got to staff. You don't. And I don't think teams will allow it.
I think that there will be a push, just like talking to Patrick Mahomes about it, for instance. I think there will be players that want the gold medal. I think it adds something to a resume that maybe the average American doesn't understand. It's the same thing in golf.
Yeah.
They treasure that gold medal.
Yes.
Obviously
like
we know that about basketball, but yeah, it's like a major to them, and it's something different. And I think that is a factor that when it comes up, I think that people are going to be surprised the level of interest that there is. Like Mahomes, I think wants to do it. I really do. The question becomes like, is he the right quarterback? I think he is.
I think he's going to be okay.
He's going to
be okay in qualifying against Belarus.
We could take Rex Grossman out of retirement.
Yes. That was okay. My thought was, what if we put Dan Marino out there and got him a ring?
I think we could do it. I think we could stack a team with retired players, but they have to be retired for 20 years and still win gold.
What I don't want is the flag football hardos to be like, actually, these are really good athletes. No, let me tell you something. No, John Randall is going to have a young man from Austria in hell. Okay. That's all you need to know.
But in all seriousness, like who are I don't want to dismiss this. I don't want to sound like an elitist American right now, but like, who are the teams that we should be concerned about?
I don't know. I would assume North America would be heavy on it. We love our fan base in Germany as football people. We've seen that obviously. Yeah. So like Western Europe, I would say I would watch out just because of rugby for Australia and like New Zealand. Maybe they could take some guys who at least would be athletic.
The number 1 receivers on any team in the NFL, and they are blowing past anybody.
I agree.
You don't need Tyreek Hill. You don't need Jamar Chase.
No. You need like John Ross.
But I want that. I want complete and utter domination. Like, we invented the sport. We need to own it.
You want the dream team.
I want the dream team. 100% want the dream team. I want my child at 10 years old to have the same feelings about this team that I maintain about the dream team, the original OG dream team.
I love that thought. I was actually going to go a different way, which is I thought it would be like a good, like lifetime achievement award for guys who were good, not great.
Yeah, I don't
the game.
Save it.
I know. Get him a ring.
You want Patrick Mahomes throwing touchdowns to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Like, it is our chance to have a true all-star team, not the Pro Bowl crap, the real thing for something in which we can dominate. Forget it, Kevin. I'm there now. You sold me. I don't want anything other. I don't want any sympathy. I don't want any tryouts. I want the best that we have.
You know what I want? I want 2019 LSU now with like adult, fully formed bodies, reunited and playing against Norway.
We could do that.
Because they used to play against Georgia and Alabama. Yeah. Now they play against Norway.
Fine. Jarvis Landry can come out of retirement. Was he 19? What was he? Or was he?
No, he was way earlier.
Before that. That was
way earlier.
Whatever. Yeah. Do that. Do that.
Thaddeus Moss.
That's fine. Odell and Jarvis. No, I want
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oh God. I'm thinking about this. You're right. I'm sorry. I had any other ideas other than complete world domination. I want them to dominate so thoroughly that the IOC removes the sport. Because remember, it's in 2028, so it's in LA. So that's one of the reasons they're doing it. So I want the IOC to be so ashamed at what the Americans have done that they remove the sport permanently.
Yep. Fine.
I also want to see a little bit like
one
the
and done,
baseball
Kev.
classics.
Fine. Don't care. It will go down. It will be a 30 for 30 in 30 years. It'll be all about
I want to see
the team that ended international football forever. One and done. We'll call it one and done. One and done.
I also want to see like the World Baseball Classic, like which players are just like, oh, I'm Italian. Oh, okay. That guy's Italian now. That's cool.
Right. Do we have that?
We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
Trying to think.
I don't want to do it. It could be like borderline offensive if we just start ascribing different ethnicities to players. We're not going to do that. All right. So a couple things. You were with the Titans on draft night, and you were reporting some of the trade stuff and how the Titans, and I don't know how to say this. Like, you guys who are viewers of the show, you guys saw the interviews with Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker. Not a lot of drama going into draft night. Okay, we interviewed them 3 weeks before, and one of the things Callahan said to me was, he said, he was rewatching old Joe Burrow Zooms from when he was a rookie to see what a rookie quarterback would look like. And then he kind of said, if we go in that direction, of course. You don't do that if you're going to draft Abdul Carter. That was one of the early tells, okay? But you were around. You know these guys. You've spent a little bit of time now with Cam. Explain to me expectations for Cam year one, because I was frankly surprised they didn't get any primetime games. I would love to see one Thursday night just in case he pops, but you can always flex that, I guess. And then whether or not this Titans team is a ways away from being any good.
So I don't think they're a ways away just because they do, I believe, have the franchise quarterback. And I didn't know a ton, despite the fact that he, being in South Florida, was in my backyard playing for the Hurricanes. I didn't know as much about his pro prospects until really went through the past several months and realized, quite frankly, that he really does have that makeup. Spending time around him, talking to even the Titans people after they did draft him, like, he fits exactly what that sort of model is, which is sort of low key in a lot of ways, but also he comes with this confidence and swagger that you should not dismiss. It's really cool. It's a very quiet confidence. Amazing. Yeah, I really liked being around him. And he's not one of those guys, I said earlier, like, he likes me, so I like him. It was quite the opposite. Like, he seemed okay with me, but definitely didn't care enough for me to then bestow praise on him. This is like real genuine stuff. You could just feel that he's going to walk into a locker room and be that guy. Similar actually to, talking to like Adam Peters before Jaden Daniels ever took a snap. Jaden really, the thing that Adam had said about that was like, Jaden resonated with veterans in a way that felt different. And I feel like Cam is going to be the same in the locker room.
That's interesting.
So I don't know how it works out from a team perspective, if they can have the same turnaround, for instance, that Washington had. I do think that, Callahan had conviction in him. There was no convincing him. Remember, my favorite story from the draft process was at Cam Ward's pro day. He threw this laser, deep and across the middle, and he ran past the Titans brass, Callahan and the others, and said to them, "I'm going to lock it up today. I'm solidifying it today." And they loved that. I mean, can you imagine, like, we talk about Caleb Williams and what Seth recently wrote about his kind of, wondering if this is the place for him. Remember, there was even rumors of Jaden Daniels, and I'm not throwing this out there because I don't want to speculate, but there were rumors that he was maybe not comfortable with Washington at that point. Obviously, he's very comfortable. But
Top Golf stuff or whatever. I don't know what the hell happened.
For Cam Ward, he made it clear to that team, this is where I want to be, which I actually would say is sort of rare in this day and age when being the best player means going to the worst team.
There's a couple of things. Number one is Cam's demeanor, especially with the media, reminds me a little bit of Joe Burrow, where
A little bit.
he's going to do what's put in front of him. He's going to give people the 5 minutes from their out of town or whatever. I'm sure you've had that before. He's not going to be your best friend. He's not going to ham it up. Right. He's not going to shake your hand. But what he cares about, both very low key guys in a way I don't think most people expect. They'd rather be at home than out being the life of the party somewhere, and they care about their teammates, and they're like great teammates. And so that's the one comp I'll have. The one thing, I think he's talked about this, but I know this just from knowing people in the program. Cam, and one of the reasons he's going to love Nashville, he's a country guy to where like he was, I think he said this, if he got drafted by the Giants because they had the first overall pick in December, he was like, I'm not stepping foot in New York City. He's like, I'm going to get like a farm in Jersey, of which there are many. Yeah. And then it was funny because I was at the Heisman ceremony and he got out of there like, I don't know when it ended, 801. Like he was at Teterboro at 805 because he's just not a city guy. He's from Texas. I think he's going to get some nice farm in Tennessee, and he's going to be very happy.
That's cool. Yeah.
But what's funny to me is, so talking about the demeanor and all that stuff and how quietly confident he is. So I was in Gainesville for the game where they won 41-17, and I had decent seats, but I don't know, 15 rows up, or whatever. But I had a friend who was on the sideline. And this friend after the game came up to me and said, the craziest thing happened during the game. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, after the first drive, which was a touchdown to Cam McCormick, an offensive coach walked up to my friend and said, this game's over. And my friend was like, what the hell? And he said, what are you talking about? And he goes, there's 100,000 people here. The calmest person in the entire stadium is the quarterback. And everybody, everybody's hands are shaking. Huge rivalry game. And Cam was just like,
yep. Well, you can see it just the way he plays. He just stands there. Like he's just like, I got this.
But like just to see it, and I'm sure
that's a different deal.
When I think about that, I think about I'm sure the coaches saw how good he was in camp. But then it's like, you don't know until you're at the Swamp. And then it's like, oh, somehow he's even more comfortable in front of 100,000 people and it's 105 degrees.
It's like Scotty Scheffler making the turn at the PGA.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, it's not a million miles away from Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
Where he's doing these things. He's like, all right.
I just made the turn. I'm tied now. It's fine.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's true.
Whatever. It's crazy. All right. Let's talk about the Niners. They extend Fred Warner. The contract stuff seems settled. They extended Brock Purdy. I think everybody's all over the map here. They shed some talent. I think the Rams are really good. Jordan Rodriguez is going to join me on Thursday. We're going to do NFC tiers of contenders. But what's your expectations for this team this year?
For the Niners specifically?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think that's fair to say. I personally
good answer. Thanks.
I think that Kyle Shanahan is somehow becoming underrated.
Mm-hmm. I agree with. I mean, Mina and I did it last week, and I had him behind Mike Tomlin, and everybody got mad at me.
Yeah,
that is the fifth best coach.
You have him behind Tomlin.
Yeah.
What, people got mad because you didn't rate him high enough?
Yeah, people got mad because they think Shanahan's better than Tomlin.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a real anti-Tomlin.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think there's oddly a little bit of an anti-Shanahan too.
I agree.
Which sometimes happens as a result of tenure. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl, and people get frustrated if the guy doesn't. But I do think we've reached this weird career arc where Kyle has gone up and down and up and down in terms of perception. And right now, I would say it's probably pretty down. And to me, that is when Kyle Shanahan is the scariest. Because a lot of times we forget that he is the best at getting the most out of people. So all of a sudden, when we see them having to shed talent due to salary cap restrictions, to me, that's when suddenly we realize, oh, wait, those people became valuable in part because of Kyle Shanahan. And I think that he is, to some degree, the kind of a kingmaker. Like he can make these guys great if they listen to him. And that's sort of the subscription. That's what Shanahan and that tree sort of does. So to me, if the expectations right now are low on the 49ers, that's honestly, if it was similar to the stock market, that's when I'd start buying on them.
It's a good point. I mean, like, if you just look at like the yards per attempt, so yards per attempt, the active leader is Jimmy Garoppolo by half a yard. Okay, by half a yard. Wow. Under that, tied is Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so Kyle made Jimmy Garoppolo a half yard better per attempt than those guys. Okay, Brock Purdy isn't qualified for that stat on Pro Football Reference. When he is, he will be half yard higher than Jimmy Garoppolo. So a full yard better than Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson on a per attempt basis. Tell me that's not a miracle. No, this is not against Brock Purdy. I don't want the Brock Purdy discourse, but Brock Purdy. But for me, everybody always says, "Oh, was Brock Purdy a top 10 quarterback?" And I say, I don't care, because Brock Purdy with Kyle Shanahan is a top 5 quarterback.
And I think that that's what a lot of people forget a lot of the time, is that like that's why Kyle like latched on. He found his guy. He found the guy who has the appropriate recall, the appropriate demeanor, the appropriate practice skill set. I think that in the NFL, again, I think that we don't put enough credence on a coach QB partnership.
Yeah.
And, you know, as much as Patrick Mahomes deserves all the credit, truly, it's the Andy Reid-Mahomes partnership. Now, Mahomes could have gone a lot of places and still been obviously incredible, but I do think it's the partnership that puts them at a different level. Obviously, I'm not saying that Brock and Kyle are there, but that's something that I think needs to be said. And like you say, well, does that make him worth over $50 million? Well, yeah, that's the market value for a franchise quarterback, and that's the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wants. So that's what you pay him. So yeah, I mean, I think it does make sense, and I think as a result, I think that Purdy will continue to live up to those expectations.
My thing on it, and this was my thing with Tua last year, is if you're John Lynch or you're Chris Greer or any of these guys, when you have a good offensive head coach, you get them in an office, shut the door, remove all recording devices, and say, how many guys can you do this with? And if the answer is, I could do it with Mason Rudolph, then you go from there. But if you are uniquely, I think Kyle would probably say that Brock Purdy is uniquely suited to run his offense.
There's a reason why Kyle had a forever love for Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And there was always a wonder if he could find a way to get Kirk on his roster. Not that Kirk is otherworldly or a Hall of Famer, but that he believes he fits exactly what he's trying to do. And to your point about Tua, like, I understand the conversation that we have when it comes to Tua, but Mike views Tua as the perfect fit for his offense. Mm-hmm. And statistically, you could make a case that he is. You take aside the injury, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show? And you take out the inability to win in cold weather. Also, other than that.
Yeah, good stuff. Good way to make a case here, Jeff.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
In the sense that you also have to make sure that you have the guy who can do those other things.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I'm playing devil's advocate to what I was just saying, because truly I do think that Tua and Mike are perfect for each other. It's can they overcome those other significant factors to actually fulfill the potential that the two of them bring.
I will say the last time that they had the cold weather flop, they were really, really injured. And so I think that was really a tough fit for that
that's
narrative.
Fine. Yeah. But I think that even they recognize they need to be a tougher team.
I agree.
Hence the deliberate attempt to do that this offseason.
I agree. We'll get you out of here on this. We covered the 2007 Dolphins together. You were at the Miami Herald. I was, as I said, in college. Taught me so much, because they went 1-15. It was the most dreadful team I've ever been around in my entire life. It was Cam Cameron having no idea what to do with the media.
No idea.
It was the year, you history buffs remember, they didn't go 0-16 because Greg Camarillo caught an overtime touchdown to beat the Baltimore
Ravens. Who threw the pass, Kevin?
John Beck?
No.
Cleo Lemon.
Better.
Cleo Lemon. I saw Cleo Lemon in a Magic game like 5 years ago.
Cleo Lemon to Greg Camarillo. One of the great moments in Dolphins history.
Ben Volen and I got in a shouting match over whether or not I interrupted his one-on-one with Cleo Lemon, and I think about that a lot. And I like Ben. I like Ben.
That's a classic.
We've talked about it many times since. It's like we were really fighting over the territory around Cleo Lemon. That's what was your when people come up to you at a bar and say, tell me what you remember about 2007 Dolphins, what sticks out?
Well, there's a lot since. Like, there's a lot of great stories since, like the end with Joey Porter and Keith Traylor. Like, Keith Traylor, I think, got in a fight on the plane on the way home from one of the games.
Yep.
Like, the 400-pound man, like, the plane is, like, literally, like, going side to side. I can't remember. I think it was, like, him and Rex Hadnot got into a literal fight.
And Cam Cameron did not famously... Didn't do anything.
And then Joey Porter called him out in the meeting. So for sure, those were the great moments, like of the behind the scenes. I just remember going up to guys in the locker room, being like so young and being like, listen, it was like, they're 0-10, 0-11, just going up and being like, man, I don't want to ask you this, and you don't want to answer it. Let's just get this out of the way. It was unbelievable, but like. Still some of my fondest memories because a year later the Wildcat was unveiled and they haven't won a playoff game since.
I will remember, I think about this all the time when I think about injury reports, is that there was one day and everybody was, like you said, everybody was so pissed off at having to answer any questions, and we're just kind of sheepishly, hey, you guys think you can beat the Raiders this week? No. And Keith Traylor was listed as limited on the practice report. And if you've seen Keith Traylor, he was 400 pounds, pushing it. He was one of those guys, just massive, and he was old. And we sheepishly went up to him on a Friday and we're like, hey, you were listed as limited. And he just screamed, I'm 37 years old. Yeah, I'm limited. Which is just such a funny way to put it.
That wasn't Joey Porter's big year, right? The Joey Porter?
I think that was the next year.
That might that was it might have been the next year when Joey Porter came in the locker room and he was sitting by his, can we end with this? I don't know. We have time. So he's sitting by his locker. He's got his shirt off, whatever, looking like Joey Porter, some monster, and everybody's kind of standing around him. And Edgar Thompson says to him, a former Dolphins beat reporter says to Joey, like, hey, are you feeling any residual effects from your knee injury? And Joey looks at him and goes like, residual? You don't got to use those big words on me, man. Like, just talk to me like a man, And and I remember the next day I write in this notebook, like, Joey Porter might be many things. A great football player, obviously, a comedian for sure, a boxer, yes. But a spelling bee champion? No. Residual? You don't know, So the next day he comes tearing to the locker room. He freaking just looks like he wants to tear someone's head off, and he just goes, where's Darlington at? All the reporters just point at me. I'm like, thanks, guys. Way to have my back like I had your back. He comes over, he's like, okay, all right. Now I know who I can mess with. So he's sitting in his locker, I walk over, I'm like, Joey, man, I'm sorry, man. I was just trying to have a fun time with you there. You talk trash, I talk trash. He goes, oh, it's cool, man. I was just coming into the building today, and Jason Taylor in the parking lot came up to me and said, you don't know what residual means? So I was just fired up.
Jeff Darlington, thank you, buddy.
I love Joey Porter is one of my favorite guys to ever cover. Love that.
Oh, my God. We'll end on that. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it.